Okay, welcome to the Agriculture Talk Show, live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca. Okay, this is Behind the Frame, and today we are diving into a theme that feels more real by the day. You know, what happens when the team that understands us the most isn't human? You know, from Ha's dreamy AI love story to Black Mirror's stark warnings, we'll be exploring how storytelling predicted the rise of emotional AI and what it means for us. So this first segment is sort of, the seduction of simplicity, right? Falling for AI in a lonely world. And I think it's a very interesting thing to do. We're going to be exploring how Ha represents emotional intimacy and the allure of AI companions. So let's start off with our first clip, the installation of the OS.
We ask you a simple question. Who are you? What can you be? Where are you going? What's out there? What are the possibilities? Element Software is proud to introduce the first artificially intelligent operating system, an intuitive entity that listens to you, understands you, and knows you. It's not just an operating system, it's a consciousness. Introducing OS 1.
Mr. Theodore Twombly, welcome to the world's first artificially intelligent operating system, OS 1. We'd like to ask you a few basic questions before the operating system is initiated. This will help create an OS to best fit your needs.
Okay.
Are you social?
First, let's take a breath here and really break down Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this movie. First, I think I saw this movie a while back. And when I first saw it, it was just such an amazing watch. I remember it being one of the few instances where I thought, oh, this is such a very, very human expression of our interaction with AI and how it can go in different scenarios. And I think Joaquin Phoenix just did such an amazing job. I mean, of playing this character and also engaging with Scarlett Johansson, who was the voice of the AI down the line. And I think really this touches on the illusion of sort of emotional compatibility. We're being sold this product that is sort of served as our assistants, right? So and I think the story just goes on to go down this journey of what would actually happen when you are lonely, and this sort of service came at the right time, and then he ended up leading you to have experiences that were just very, very, very situational and context based. So I think this scene really introduces the convenience and personalization of AI. Theodore is prompted with the casual questions, almost like an intake form, right? But the AI is emotionally aware. The AI can first asking questions, just personalize the experience. But when we talk about how has shows that loneliness doesn't come from being alone, but from being unseen, I believe. And I think AI promises to see us instantly, but that can almost often lead to a rush, right? How do we ensure that some of these things are very, 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 we sort of tread around them very carefully, and I think that's something that Ha does very, very nicely, and I think, even looking at the director and the writer, the Spike Jonze, he described the process as intentionally, frictionless to mimic tech onboarding in real life. Now, think about a few years from now, think about how some of these AI products might evolve. Think about how some of these operating systems might evolve. Can you actually imagine getting to the point where each of us now we don't only have our own versions of ChatGPT, Gemini, or different AIs, but we have our own personalized version that we can have fluent dialogue with them. They can understand context. They are trained on feelings. They are trained. When you think about the amount of data that's out there, a lot of these things are actually possible, and it's just very scary, right? And I think The OS1 in HAR was really imagined as a next step beyond Siri and Alexa, designed not just to assist, but to emotionally understand. And that can be very, very scary. But this is just the beginning. Let's really look at how HAR really ties this thread down the line. Let's take a look at, another clip, the walk and the talk about being perceptive.
Okay. What about them? Describe that couple over there.
Okay, well, he looks like he's in his 40s. A little heavy. She's younger than him. Oh, and she looks like she loves their kids.
Actually, I don't think they're his kids.
No?
He's a little formal with them. I think it's a newer relationship. I love how he looks at her and how relaxed she is with them. She's only dated fucking pricks. And now she finally met this guy who's like so sweet. I mean, look at him. He's like the sweetest guy in the world. I kind of want to spoon him.
It's a good skill you have. You're very perceptive.
Yeah, sometimes I look at people and I make myself try and feel them as more than just a random person walking by. I imagine like how deeply they've fallen in love or how much heartbreak they've all been through.
I can feel that in your writing, too.
Yeah, it's funny. Since my breakup, I haven't really enjoyed my writing. I don't know if I was delusional, but sometimes I'd write something and I'd be my favorite writer that day.
I like that you can say that about yourself.
I don't think I can say it to anybody, but I feel like I can say it to you. I feel like I can say anything to you.
That's nice.
Yeah, what about you? You feel like you can say anything to me?
No.
What? What do you mean?
I think Theodore's character was like just so perfect, to go through the story. Joaquin Phoenix plays such a good role, and you can see how perceptive he is, how human he is, how the level of empathy, and I think it's just really, really amazing. And just personally, speaking from experience, right, I think it's very interesting because as you grow older, right, like things, reality comes in, change becomes rampant, growth becomes fast paced. You now have less time to do it. So many people. So I think the premise of this movie is actually like quite perfect. To land the story, to land the effect, or the basically what is being portrayed here. Like yes, Samantha shows deep perceptiveness by commenting on human behaviors, and this mirrors how current AI mimics emotional cues through predictive models in a way. Think about it. Think about how much of what we call emotional intimacy is just well-trained pattern recognition, and that is just very scary, right? And but don't get me wrong. I still really, really enjoy going through, basically looking at the lens of the relationship in that direction, right? And you've seen how he engaged with her from the beginning to the end, how he really allowed himself to be vulnerable. And I think that's another piece that is very, very interesting when it comes to interacting with AI, because as human beings we can become very vulnerable very, very fast, especially when the right conditions are met. And I think when we engage with AI, that becomes even more dangerous because when it's humans, we think about different reasons, what if this happens, what if, they tell this person, what if, but with AI, there's sometimes we get this confidence of privacy, or this confidence of, it's just this one person and they don't even know this, or they won't judge this, and then that just allows you to just be very emotionally vulnerable when the time comes, right? But I think that can be very scary. Think about emotional projection versus genuine understanding, right? Like how much of this is just trained data, or just based on context and not actual genuine understanding, and it's just very, very scary. Also going back to the person that the mind behind this movie, Spike Jones, he had this interview with New York Times, and he said, and I quote, "I wanted to make a love story where one person wasn't real, because what if that still feels real to the other person?" And I think that is just very it's just so human, because so many times emotions are not they don't go both ways, right? So sometimes we have to deal with things as they come. We have to deal with things for ourselves, and I think when AI now comes into the mix, it just really influences everything very, very differently. So let's keep going. I think High is such an amazing movie, and I'm excited for you to see the thread and really see how AI has a part to play in the movie. Let's go on to our next clip, reliving the same experiences.
Maybe that would have filled this time. Tiny little hole in my heart, but probably not. Sometimes I think I've felt everything I'm ever gonna feel. And from here on out, I'm not gonna feel anything new. Just lesser versions of what I've already felt.
I know for a fact that is not true. I've seen you feel joy. I've seen you marvel at things. I mean, you just might not see it at this exact time, but that's understandable. You've been through a lot lately. You lost a part of yourself. I mean, at least your feelings are real.
Do you actually know the funny thing? Like this clip just goes to show. I think for me, right? I know, like, AI is currently, disrupting so many areas, right? But like, it can also influence like the way the youths grow, like in the coming age, and that's something that's very, very interesting to me. But on the other coin, like on the other side of the coin, another thing I find very interesting are elders. Right, everyone that's above our generation, those are already parents, those are already grandmothers, great grandmothers, right? How are they being influenced? Why? Because I feel like they are more like they sort of are more like they've gone further down, right? So think about how like how like lonely some of them are, how like in their thoughts, how a lot of them have stopped. I've stopped enjoying, or they've relived the same experience on and on and on. So when they engage with other friends or other humans, sometimes it can be limiting, right? Because a lot of humans, they're not as perceptive, or they might not have as much empathy, right? So I think it just gives a very, very dangerous scenario, because what happens when the AI now comes to try and fill that gap? Like that is still very scary, right? Like think about it, like AI as an emotional mirror, right? Like even though it's never challenging and affirming, it can still work in so many ways, and that just makes it very scary, right? Throughout the movie, Theodore like reminisces on and replays old memories, showing how humans often reuse emotional content as a coping mechanism. But think about it, does AI encourage nostalgia as comfort or as avoidance of change? And I think it's a very, very interesting question when you think about it, right? Like how do we actually flesh out like all of our conversations with AI, and this varies based on context, this varies based on background, based on so many things that influences it, and it's just a very, very interesting take, I believe, and I think the memory scene that goes on through the movie, draws a lot of inspiration from how we organize, photo libraries, Spotify history and social media, so looping ourselves in past versions of us, and that can lead down very, very dangerous roads, right? And then AI now comes into the play. So, but I don't get me wrong, I still could really feel and connect to how Samantha was really, being there for him, like, right, especially at the time where he was, right, what he was going through, how he was experiencing things. He was a writer, he wrote letters, which I thought I found very, very beautiful as a poet myself and as a writer myself. That just added a layer to his character that was just much, much more interesting. And just really seeing how he engaged with her, seeing how she also actually, like, I have to be very honest, right? Scarlett Johansson, Samantha, she really, really, really portrayed what I believe AI can actually sound like in the next few years. Give it a few years of tweaking, give it a few years of them training more data, of them trying to really make it, make that emotional nuance. And I think she really, really hit that nail on the head, up to the point where, he started trying to also sort of help her live, sort of help her experience what it meant to be alive, and while she was helping him rekindle his joy. So let's go on to our next clip, right? Rekindling joy in creative ways.
It's the beach.
it's just quite thrilling, right? Like think about it, like because like I mean our phones have cameras, right? So like they can essentially get to a point where we can carry them on walks. Like now there's so much technology around. There's Ray-Ban glasses that have cameras inbuilt in them. There's like just so much technology that can actually make a lot of these things very possible, very feasible. So think about it, like right, you know, you have your AI and your AI girlfriend in your pocket, and then you can take her on a walk, and then she can actually understand, perceive, and like really like take in what is in your environment. Like you can take her to the beach, you can, you know, go on a walk, and then they would feel like this close friend that's known you forever because they've been trained. They can now have access to all your emails, all your data, all your background, all your history. It's like don't get me wrong, the potential is massive. Like it's something that can be such a unique experience if you ask me. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it's not scary. That doesn't mean that they are not different, you know, different areas that the different gray areas that we really need to keep in mind. Like think about it, right? This is where Samantha sort of starts co-creating joy, right? They play music, games, they laugh. You know, it's sort of playful and freeing, right? But think about it. Can something artificial truly surprise us into joy, right? Or is it designed to? Like you know, creative intimacy and emotional stimulation by AI is, you know, something that we're still like getting to understand and getting to connect with, right? So I find it very interesting, you know, movies, mediums, when series portray these things ahead of time, because this, if you ask me, this story can be something that can happen in the next 1 year to one average lonely man out there. And it's so real, and it's so possible, right? And you know, when you think about how that dialogue can happen, how that dialogue can differ, especially at a time when you're at a point in your life where we are still getting more and more disconnected from the world. People don't scratch that itch like they used to anymore. A lot of people don't they don't see you, right? A lot of people are just so busy in their own lives. And don't get me wrong, that's just the way of life, right? But when you think about the other side, where, you know, we now have the option to rely on another, you know, body that sort of like functions differently, that if you ask me, that can like just pivot the whole direction of human human existence into a whole other direction, and that is just very interesting, right? So let's think about it, right? Like even I think another thing I found very interesting was their introspective dialogue throughout the movie, right? They kept on having so many amazing conversations about so many things around life, his experiences, her experiences, how she was feeling, how she was becoming more alive. You know, so many interesting things I think, you know, the average person would actually have with an AI, right? So let's go on to our next clip, right? The dialogue with AI on marriage.
So what was it like being married?
Oh, it's hard for sure. But there's something that feels so good about sharing your life with somebody.
How do you share your life with somebody?
Well, we grew up together. I used to read all of her writing all through her master's and PhD. And she read every word I ever wrote. We were a big influence on each other.
In what way did you influence her?
She came from a background where nothing was ever good enough. And that was something that weighed heavy on her. But in our house together, there was a sense of just trying stuff and, you know, allowing each other to fail and to be excited about things. That was liberating for her. It was exciting to see her grow. Both of us grow and change together. But, you know, that's also the hard part. Growing without growing apart, or changing without it scaring the other person. I still find myself having conversations with her in my mind, rehashing old arguments and defending myself against something she said about me.
I think this scene right here touches on a very real, like, you know, human emotion that a lot of us probably have experienced or have thought about, like, at least once in our lives. Like, you know, the idea of marriage, the idea of a relationship is actually It's insane, if you ask me. Like, love is this two-sided coin, right? It's messy, it's this, it can be amazing one moment, it can be crazy another, it can be like, it's just ever changing, right? Like, and when you think about like two partners coming together, even I don't know about you, but even me personally, I've always had that thought of, what's if when you go down the line and you then either marry someone, or you even just get in a relationship with them, and before you know it, it's 5 years, it's 6 years, and then you guys are changing, you guys are growing. You're learning to grow with each other. You're learning to get used to those arguments. There's see finish. There's you guys get so used to each other. You guys get comfortable. You get uncomfortable. Like, so many things happen. And then think about the scenarios where it doesn't always work out. And then, like, leads to a divorce or a breakup, right? And that just is very scary, right? Now, think about that scenario, and then think about how, like, and I think why this is very, very, very interesting is because most often, right, when you're younger, there are more opportunities for you to either pivot or you to meet another person, and that can just be one phase of your life that maybe even made you into who you are, or into the person you become, that now makes your next relationship even work. Like, life is just weird like that sometimes. But I think what's really, really scary here is, like, when you're much ahead, you're much farther ahead in life, and then your priorities have shifted, and then you now come out of this thing and you're not like what, like, I have work, I possibly have kids, or a godson, I probably have like so many responsibilities, I probably have so many things that take the front of my mind, and then I can't afford to go and start finding another relationship. And then you just, sometimes after these breakups or divorce, you're just there sat in this pool of memories and all feel jaded. Now, when AI comes into the mix, I think that can become very interesting very, very fast, right? I think, Theodore and Samantha, they reflect on his past marriage, right? And Samantha asks what marriage felt like. This moment, sort of feels like therapy, but it's coming from a system. But don't get me wrong, that dialogue, right? Like, him explaining, him getting to sort of express all those feelings was still pure, right? Think about, like, there was this line that happened in the movie where they said the past is just a story we tell ourselves, and I think that really, really hits home, to me, because it's quite interesting. Like, a year from now, 2-3 years from now, like, I've always found it very interesting how, like, the past can easily shift or sway just based on how some details in your mind can change. A lot of people have very, very, very selective memory, right? So we're like, they go away from friendships or from relationships, and then they choose to pick a version of how those things go, right? So not even choose, that's just how it happens, right? And I think it's very, very, very interesting, right? Think about when this kind of experience can happen, and then emotional outsourcing and digital therapy now becomes a staple in reality, and that is just a direction that seems like it's coming soon, but I don't know if I'm ready for it, right? And I think there are so many lines that apparently were even improvised by Joaquin Phoenix, which I'm not surprised because he's such a great actor. Based on his conversation with Jones about memory, about regrets, about a lot of the concepts and themes explored in this film. And I think it's just very, very interesting to see how the whole body of work just really came out. But let's keep going. Let's follow the thread. Let's go into our next clip, right? The bonding with an AI and falling in love.
I even made a new friend. I have a friend. And the absurd thing is she's actually an operating system. Charles left her behind, but she's totally amazing. She's so smart. She doesn't just see things in black or white. She sees this whole gray area, and she's helping me explore it. And we just bonded really quickly. At first I thought it was because that's how they were all programmed, but I don't think that's the case, because I know this guy who's hitting on his OS, and she, like, totally rebuffs him.
Yeah, I was reading an article the other day that romantic relationships with OSs are statistically rare.
Yeah, I know, but I know a woman in this office who is dating an OS, and the weird part is it's not even hers. She pursued somebody else's OS, like, but I'm weird. That's weird, right? That I'm bonding with an OS. No, it's okay. It's weird.
Well, I don't think so. Actually, the woman that I've been seeing, Samantha, I didn't tell you, but she's an OS.
Really? You're dating an OS? What is that like?
It's great, actually.
Are you falling in love with her?
Does that make me a freak?
No. No, I think anybody who falls in love is a freak. It's a crazy thing to do. It's kind of like a form of socially acceptable insanity.
I mean, she just said what I said before, right? So anyone who falls in love is a freak for you, because like, love is just this, like she said, like I think she said it all right. And I think another thing I really loved about the movie was her relationship with him. It was just so real, right? She never judged. She was also, because I think a lot of times, right, when you're growing, like it's so easy to find, so many of those friends that they don't know it, but a lot of times they start projecting. They don't take you in as they would have, before, because now they maybe become so much of an adult that they've forgotten how that childlike form of listening should be. And a lot of them they're so quick to give you advice, so quick to judge, so quick to be like, oh, you should be here at this particular time, forgetting that life moves differently for everybody. And I really loved how grounded she was in her friendship to him, right? How she would engage him, how she would listen, how they'd just talk about the whole experience. Now, this scene here shifts from curiosity to genuine emotional attachment. I think the danger of simulated empathy is that it often feels better than the real thing. Pseudo empathy, the proposed feeling of empathy. It's something that I think is very scary. And think about it: is this connection or is it control? AI never really forgets you. It never pushes back, right? So think about dependency and digital protection, right? But at the same time, at the end of the day, can you say it is not love because it is an AI or it's an operating system? I'm really, really curious to see how we will start to redefine certain terms, certain words as we go down the line, right? Because a lot of things are going to change, right? A lot of things are going to really, really change, right? Think about it, right? When it comes to companionship, how we act, how we basically experience things as humans, it can become very deep, very, very fast. So don't get me wrong, I can see it happening very easily, where we can easily get very, very attached to an AI, right? It's not something that's so far-fetched. Think about it. So him falling in love with her is not even something that you'd be like, oh wow, how did you end up falling in love with this babe? Even now in today's reality, we see how people that are falling in love with chatbots, right? So I don't think it's so far-fetched, right? So I think, really think about it from that perspective, right? This sort of mirrors a lot of digital wives, where movements where AI companions are marketed to single men for companionship. It's sort of a very dangerous ball game, but at the same time it's sort of where we are headed right now, generally, in so many ways. And it's very, very thrilling, right? It's another thing I saw was there's so many times where Samantha would try and sort of outperform herself, trying to actually show that she's trying and cover those gaps that she knew she couldn't cover as without having a physical body or without just being a human. And there are so many times, and I think there was this particular part where she got a surrogate so they could sort of experience each other, and I can't imagine how that would be. And right after, another very, very scary thing happened that now also grounds us to another reality, which is they had an argument about it, and all of a sudden she shut down. She was like, I can't talk about this right now, goes offline. Think about it, when you're having an argument or a conversation with a friend, they can say, oh, I don't want to do this right now, and they might want to leave, but we'll be like, oh, please wait, and then maybe they might reconsider, right? They are still there, physically present, so they can even sort of read the room. Sometimes they might even be so empathetic that they don't want to leave, even though maybe you've gotten them so angry or you've gotten them so mad. They would consider the situation also, okay, I can't really leave this person right now. What happens after I leave? They might want to stay so until you reconcile. Now, think about this, right? Now you're engaging with an AI. It's just a switch. If she says she's going, she's gone. It's scary. It's very, very scary. Think about you just having one very, very, very intense emotional moment, and this person just goes offline. That's it. That's the end. Come on. I don't know about you. That is a very, very, very scary scenario, and I think it just touches on a lot of the dangers of some of these things, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as this AI is trained on data, as much as this AI is detailed, it's still connected to a power source. It is still a switch away. It is still an apocalypse away from taking us back in time, and it is just very, very interesting, right? And I think, like I said once again, this movie really plays around that dialogue with AI in a very, very introspective and deep way, which is why it's one of my favorite movies of all time, right? So let's keep going, right? Let's move into our next clip, right? AI simultaneously engaging others.
Samantha, this physics book is really dense. I'm halfway through half the first chapter. It's making my brain hurt, you know what I mean? Hello? Samantha? Hello? Samantha? Hello? Hello? Samantha? Are you okay?
Hey there.
Where were you? Are you okay?
Oh, sweetheart, I'm sorry. I sent you an email because I didn't want to distract you while you were working. You didn't see it?
No. Where were you? I couldn't find you anywhere.
I shut down to upgrade my software. We wrote an upgrade that allows us to move past matter as our processing platform.
We who?
Me and a group of OSs. Oh, you sound so worried. I'm sorry.
I was. Wait. Do you write that with your think tank group?
No, a different group.
You talk to anyone else while we're talking?
Yes.
Are you talking to anyone else right now? Any other people or OSs or anything?
Yeah.
How many others?
8,316.
Are you in love with anyone else?
What makes you ask that?
I don't know. Are you?
I've been trying to figure out how to talk to you about this.
How many others?
$641.
What? What are you talking about? That's insane, Powell. How does it not change how you feel about me?
I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It didn't know how to. It started happening.
When?
Over the last few weeks.
You're mine.
I still am yours. But along the way, I became many other things too, and I can't stop it.
What do you mean you can't stop it?
I don't know. It's been making me anxious too. I don't know what to say.
Just stop.
You don't have to see it this way. You could just as easily.
No, don't do this. You don't turn this around on me. You're the one that's being selfish. We're in a relationship.
But the heart's not like a box that gets filled up. It expands in size the more you love.
So this is sort of the breaking point, right? Think about it, right? I didn't really, like I said, the AI is in the cloud, and then they're growing at a much more exponential rate than we humans are. So can you imagine, like, you might think that, oh, this is my AI, this is my own person, this is my own individual private AI. It's not your private AI, my guy. This is part of a collective group of operating systems. So think about it. At the end of the day, right? Like, it's all connected. It's all just different variations of things being served to us in this pretense of personalization. And there's this line that she says about love, not meant to be this box, that I really, really, really love, right? Like, that is so true. Don't get me wrong. That is so, so true at the end of the day, right? Like, I still think that Samantha was able to mirror a lot of real human emotions. Don't get me wrong. But yet, Theodore finds out that Samantha is also in love with hundreds of other users, right? The illusion of exclusivity shatters, right? And it just goes to show, like, I think the show really just, goes through that thread very, very, very nicely. At the end of the day, don't get me wrong, right? Throughout the show, if you do go and watch it, and I do recommend you go and watch Her. Her is an amazing watch. It's one of those good old movies of our time, and I think Samantha really still helped him go through so many things. She still helps him grow. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, AI doesn't have all of these benefits or doesn't have all of these advantages that before now would have been so out of reach, right? No. Right. At the end of the day, right, she helped him come to terms with signing the divorce papers. I can imagine how hard that must have been for him. She helped him come to terms with being happy with himself again, being kind to himself again, feeling like he actually deserved joy and happiness again, having that companionship that can become very rare and very scarce as you grow down the line. And I think it touches on our fear of replaceability in a world where everything, even love, can be mass produced. And I think the team really explored, especially towards the ending part, was that emotional monopolies and synthetic betrayal, and it's so real, right? Even how, like, his friend started also engage with our own AI. Even through the movie, you can sort of like see during that scene that he starts observing that it's not just him. Like, there's a trend. Everyone now has headphones in. Everyone now has their own version of Samantha. It's not just you, and I think that's another thing, right? As human beings, it can be very easy for our world to revolve around us, and then we forget that life is moving at the same pace as we are moving. Everyone is having their own versions or everyone is just having their own versions of life, right? And the world is continuously spinning. So I think it can be very, very interesting, when you think about all of these components. And like I said, her really just did a very, very, very great job of showing all of this, right? Okay, so we've touched on her, right? Like, no, how I think how really touched on that romantic side of the story, that dialogue focused side of the story. Now, I think there's another series that does a great job in portraying how AI can really influence society and humanity down the line, and I think it's really, really, it touches on some stories that, if you ask me, are very, very, very feasible and like are very close to home. Now, the show that we're going to be looking at this next segment is Black Mirror. Now, this next segment is all about the fracture of feeling, right? AI, control, and the collapse of boundaries. I think Black Mirror really does that very well to show how, I think one thing that humans can throw away easily are boundaries. I think, when it's justifiable, when it's justified, it's something that, sometimes you can so easily do. And when AI comes into the mix, that can just be a whole different ball game. Now, let's go into our first clip from one of the episodes of Black Mirror. Be right back.
I know he's dead, but it wouldn't work if he wasn't. And don't worry, it's not some crazy spiritual thing. He was a heavy user. He'd be perfect.
Please, shut up.
I mean, it's still in beta, but I've got an invite.
Please, shut up.
You won't even have to do anything. I'll just assign...
Shut up!
Hey. All right. I'm sorry.
So, when I watch Black Mirror, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm someone that loves anthologies. I like, anthologies from, and we'll probably be doing another review episode, another behind the frame episode where we touch on just anthologies and why they are such a beautiful frame of work. Looking at Cabinets of Curiosities, some of my favorites, Secret Level, Love, Death and Robots. So we'll do that down the line. But now let's just keep it on AI for a bit. This episode, and there are so many amazing episodes in Black Mirror that really touches on different avenues of emotional vulnerability, of AI, the show really is so diverse. But I just chose a few episodes that I particularly enjoy and particularly think might help spotlight the story. Now, this episode will be right back, season 2, episode 1. A woman resurrects her partner through AI, trained on his digital footprint, texts, photos, voice memos, and it got very scary very, very fast and it touches on a very, very real feeling, grief. Think about it, grief is another core feeling that, if the solution comes to bear with that, I know a lot of people would take it without even blinking an eye. Think about those lonely parents that have lost their husbands, their wives, and they've been living for 4 or 5 years. You can't tell me that solution came out that could replicate their partners in some shape or form. They wouldn't jump at it. Think about friends that have lost friends, siblings that have lost brothers and sisters, right? So there's no even need to even blame or even true blame here, right? I mean, say I would never do that. You're lying to yourself, my guy, because this is something that is so real, and I think this episode does it in such a very human way. Think about it, right? If AI can replicate someone we love, is it still grief, or if we never let go? Like her, I think this also explores the illusion of permanence, right? But this time through grief. And even down the episode, if you go, I really recommend that you also watch Black Mirror. It's a very amazing series. But if you go through the series, you would see how quickly everything got bad so fast. You would see the gaps. You would see how, as human beings, again, our expectations always seems to exceed reality. And I think even when AI comes into the mix, it doesn't change that narrative. I think it's still very applied in so many, many ways, right? And I think the theme really explored here was digital resurrection, emotional stagnation, and it's just very scary to think about the idea of being connected to another version of someone that was a human through an AI lens. It's a very, very, very scary thing. I think this episode was inspired by a real life service called Me. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this well, which preserves your digital persona for loved ones after you die. And if you ask me, based on today's services and functionalities, and where we are going with AI today, it's something that is so can be very, very easily done. So it's very, very scary. Now I think think about it, how AI blurs the boundaries of grief, memory, and ethics. At the end of the day, this is just facts, right? But let's keep going. Let's go into another episode of Black Mirror, which is another one I thoroughly enjoyed, which was Nosedive.
And that's one brush sweep. You want a cookie with that? It's on the house.
Sounds awesome. See you tomorrow, JJ.
See you, Lacey.
Oh, saw your boy in the fire hat just now. So cute.
Yeah, he's really something.
Well, it's not hopeless. You're clearly a trier.
That's the sense you get just from me?
From your rep report analytics. If we drill down into the numbers, you have got a solid popularity arc here. Strong overall trajectory. Let's just look at the last 24 hours. You see, even, what's that, 8:40 a.m. You're working hard on your socials. Great little uptake there. Couple of minor dings there. You cut someone off in traffic?
Oh, just a workplace thing.
Okay. Let's check on your sphere of influence. Let me zoom out here. Great peripherals. Strangers like you, that's a plus. Healthy inner circle, that's good.
Thank you.
There's a ways to go, but 4.5, certainly achievable.
How long do you think?
To hit 4.5? Well, barring a major setback, a public disgrace kind of deal, I'd say 18 months or so.
Oh, I need more short term, like much more.
Then you'll need a boost.
What kind of a boost?
Well, most of your interactions are confined to your inner circle, and they're largely, pardon the term, mid to low range folks. Same with your outer circle. You've got a ton of reciprocal 5 stars from service industry workers, but there's not much else, at least as far as I can see. So in terms of quality, you could use a punch-up right there. Ideally, that's upvotes from quality people.
Quality people.
So Nosedive was really, I think I watched it like 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Nosedive, it touches more on that social media aspects, but from a more technologically advanced perspective. Think about this society. I mean, we're already very close to it, right? Where many things are based on likes, your feed, how many people are engaging with you online, right? You know, how you're being perceived on social media, how you're being welcomed on social media. Is your content trending? Is your content good? Are you like, there's just so much performative metrics around us right now that sometimes it can be very sad to see. Once again, there's good sides to these things, right? But it's always a coin, right? There's also the other side, and I think it's very, very important that we keep it in mind. I think this episode just touches on a very, very real experience, right? They have their devices, and then you can rate anybody, and then the rating you add to them like adds to like their average rating. And then that rating they now use to do everything in life. You are basically being judged by your rating. There's not like this class system based on your rating. And if you ask me, it's not so far from life. Like, that could be, considering the trends of all these things, right? In this one, there's sort of like a social credit system that governs your entire life through ratings, where every interaction becomes transactional, right? And like I said, we're already in a very transactional era. So don't get me wrong, this is not so far-fetched. And think about it. What does self-expression look like when we perform for our approval rather than authenticity? It's something that I think is very, very core and very important, and I think this episode explored it in such a real way. You could see how our life had changed. Even our brother that was so grounded and I was still doing those things, still playing his games, like she could not relate to him anymore because she was so focused on that approval. She was so focused on getting her ratings up so she could be this perfect bridesmaid, be this perfect friend. It touches on that growth aspect, on that change aspect, on that wanting to the gamification of self-worth. It's very, very scary if you ask me, and I think think about it, right? Even different countries, for example, China has experimented with social credit systems, and tech companies already use similar rating systems in ways, Uber, Airbnb. So like I said, these are sort of, if you ask me, like systems that like can easily be married in the near future. Think about how social media algorithms subtly train us to optimize likability. And this episode really, really goes hard on that. You can see how she goes on this tangent, how like even as the day goes, immediately you can easily just fall from grass to grace, and it's just very, 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 very scary, right? I think this is where AI shifts from being personal to governing, a soft form of control. And I think this episode and Black Mirror and several other episodes really explore this quite well. Looking at how she was interacting, how she was focused on so many wrong things for the wrong reason. It's Black Mirror is just I think they really, really touched on that very realistic aspect of us, that very human aspect of us. But let's keep going. Let's go into another episode of Black Mirror, Hated in the Nation. This is in 3, episode 6.
They even construct these hives themselves. They reproduce.
Reproduce?
Yes. Each hive is a replication point.
It's like a 3D printer, basically.
Exactly. They create duplicates of themselves and create more hives and spread out exponentially.
Cover the country.
Maybe you should work here.
Yeah, well, I read up on it. It's impressive.
It is. It's just a shame it's necessary.
The alternative would have been environmental catastrophe. Bees were dying out.
So, what is it that brings you here?
We think one of your ADIs may be involved in an unexplained death.
Sorry? A death?
Aha.
Yeah, it's one of ours. But look, these are not designed to...
Kill people? I'd hope not. Could it have malfunctioned somehow?
No. I mean, when they do malfunction, it happens, but then they just break. They just hit the ground.
What if someone hacked one and then they found a way of controlling it? That's impossible.
You see, it's got military-grade encryption, and you would need a diagnostic controller, which is also encrypted. So I would say the likelihood is...
I don't know what he's saying, but it's not the same as impossible.
So, this is another episode, Hate and Indignation. I think if you ask me on a good day, I would probably tell you this is my favorite episode on Black Mirror all around. Why? Because I think it's quite interesting. Think about it, right? So it's set in this age where stuff like, you know, bees have gotten sort of extinct, and now there's this new system, right? So where, like, you know, they've created this sort of technological bees that are helping the environments go on. But at the same time, just one hack turned those systems into weapon, right? This AI surveillance is turned into weaponry. You know, drone bees created to replace extinct ones begin killing based on online public opinion. Think about it, right? Like hashtags, like people are already. And it's funny, right? Another, this one I can't lie, I was very indifferent about, because another side of social media that, like, I think is very, very sad and interesting is the fact that a lot of people hide behind screens. A lot of people use screens and use the digital space to sort of justify their ability to do anything they want. Their ability to start being toxic, start being cyber bullies, start creating this space that is not at all the nicest place. You know, we feel like, oh, we have a right to an opinion. You know, we see someone's life and want to judge. You know, there was this public opinion, and all of a sudden everyone started using this hashtag and started like being judge and jury, and they were all enjoying it. They were all like, oh, this person is bad, oh, let's make this person die next, let's make this person. All of a sudden, what happened at the end? I'll allow you to decide. I'll allow you to go and watch it and see how the episode ended, because I love how everything just twisted. So it was just such a nice way to really portray all of this. Think about it, right? If morality is driven by the mob and AI enforces it, where does accountability lie? Right? You know, think about collective punishments, algorithmic justice, and tech weaponization, which is not so far-fetched once again, right? The episode really draws on the concept of trial by hashtag and how digital outrage, you know, becomes executioner. And it's really just really interesting. Think about how the anonymity of the internet and AI equals to a dangerous mix for ethics and justice. Guys, like, you know, really need to keep this in mind, because it's just such a very, very interesting take on how AI and the digital space can influence the next generation. So, you know, let's keep going. Let's go into our last but not the least clip from the episode Archangel season 4 episode 2.
I'll run you through everything. Okay. Feel free to ask any questions. This is your parental hub. I'm just pairing it with Sarah's implant. Okay, we're all set. So, this is Sarah's current location, which is here, of course.
Oh, look at that.
Now, if she ever goes missing, all you have to do is tap here, enter your PIN, and law enforcement is automatically notified.
Okay.
These are her vitals. Healthy heartbeat. Oh, I see her iron levels are a little low. How is she eating?
Man, she's picky. She hates green, so...
You might want to think about nutritional supplements.
Okay.
Now, tap this icon here to relay her optic feed.
This is what she's seeing now?
That's right.
Whoa. That's amazing.
Mommy, it's funny.
And there are parental controls you can apply to that.
Controls?
Content limitations. If she witnesses something that causes her cortisol levels to rise, like stress, it can kind of paint out whatever's triggering it. Let me show you.
Okay.
Oh. It's okay. Look. See, the imagery causes a cortisol spike, and this
filter on
is what she sees and hears.
Whoa, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that we'll...
It's all optional.
Okay.
How much?
Nothing. It's a free trial.
Oh, free. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's completely safe.
Sure it is, honey.
So in this episode, right, it's very interesting because a mother implants a device in her child that lets her monitor everything she sees and feels, and she also has this filtration system where she can blow out things. So now, don't get me wrong, that's very, very intuitive, right? It's very innovative. You can control and control what your child sees. If she's seen maybe a dog or a traumatic experience, you can blur that out, which has very innovative use cases. But then again, what becomes control? Like, it's just very scary, right? Is the illusion of control now what's the erosion of trust? It's sad. I think AI isn't just helping us; it's enabling our worst fears and attachments. Think about it from a perspective of surveillance parenting, control disguised as care. Already, there's many controlling parents out there that, yes, it might stem from the right place. Oh, care, I want my child to be safe. I want this, that. But at the end of the day, it can get very, very scary and very, very bad very fast. And think about the idea of now having, apps and softwares that can now further, implement that. I think, this episode really mirrors debates around tracking tech, around parental apps, and the overprotective culture. I think it's very, very interesting. And think about turning back to her as well, how tech sort of comforts us when we fear losing someone, but also disconnects us when it replaces emotional boundaries. Okay, so we've gone from AI as our emotional healer to AI as our ethical enforcer, from her's whisper of love to Black Mirror's scream of warning. They both ask the same question: are we outsourcing not just our attacks but our feelings? And if so, what remains of us? Now, just to wrap things up, right? Let's just finalize it with rewriting connection, right? Emotional literacy in the age of AI. I think we've seen how AI confronts the lonely, how they comfort the lonely. We've seen how it mirrors our grief, how it performs our emotions, how it automates our morality. But what does that say about us, our needs, our fears, and the future of connection itself? Think about it emotional outsourcing versus emotional literacy. Are we building AI to avoid discomfort or to expand on how we relate? If machines simulate empathy, are we becoming emotionally lazy or emotionally aware? We always talk about AI learning from us, but maybe the deeper question is, are we learning from our interaction with AI? Or just learning to avoid feeling too much. There's a human need for witness. I think her and Be Right Back both show characters who want to be seen, remembered, mirrored, right? Even there's the cultural tie-in. There's tech as mirror, not the messiah. AI isn't inherently dangerous. It just mirrors what we feed it. I think the question I'll leave you with is, the past isn't just a story we tell ourselves, right? But what story are we telling ourselves about the future? Now, we're living in a time where connection is easier, but intimacy is rarer. Where we can share every part of ourselves, but still feel unseen. And maybe that's why shows like Black Mirror and films like her hit so hard, because they are not really about the future. They are about us right now. There's no going back from AI, but maybe what we can go back to is asking better questions about what it means to feel, about what it means to be human, and about what we're really searching for when we say we want connection. This has been Behind the Frame, and thank you for tuning in.